Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of January 7th, 2019. Happy New Year, everyone. A quick note before we begin, if you're listening to this on iTunes, you may want to check out the exclusive other shows we do at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Jim and I have done hours of shows and everything from Disney attraction history to things that never got built and more. And it only appears at disneydish.bandcamp.com. Check it out today. And now let's bring in the man who knows how to get hydraulic fluid out of the carpet of a rented U-Haul van at night, one Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, what's buzzing?
Well, we said it was hydraulic fluid. It was red. Can I really tell this story outside of the grand jury? Or?
I wouldn't. Let's not speak of it and then move on. Jim, on this episode, we're going to do a quick bit of news and listener questions, and then we're going to talk about Aulani in two parts. One part would be my recent stay there, and then you will give us the history and overview of that fabulous Hawaiian resort. How's that sound?
Works for me.
All right, let's start with news and listener questions, Jim. I want to mention that the Disney Dish News is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Disney Dish. For a worry-free travel experience every time, book online at storybookdestinations.com. And by the way, Jim, I hear Storybook Destinations is doing a Disney Cruise Line cruise, June 19th to the 23rd, with our good friend Scott Sanders of the Disney Cruise Line blog. Have you heard of this?
No, but I'll contact Scott and find out if he needs a lackey.
It's actually pretty good. It's a 4-night Bahamian cruise with a double dip on Castaway Cay, which on the Dream, which is my preferred itinerary for first-time cruises on the Disney Cruise Line.
Very cool.
Sounds lovely. All right, Jim, let's get into our listener question and then some news. The listener question will actually prompt the news. This is from Chrissy M. She sent along a survey of screenshots that she got after eating at Tiffins in the Animal Kingdom. And I've eaten at Tiffins a couple times in the last few months, and I will tie this into my experience there. But Jim, what do you make of the first question that that Disney asks about Tiffins? First question goes like this: what would you say the value for the price of the food you paid was? Excellent, very good, good, just okay, and poor. Now, Jim, I gotta say, when the first question is how do you feel about the cost? That's a signifier of something, right?
Yeah. You and I have eaten at Tiffins, and with the possible exception of the fish that stared at us.
Let me give some background there. So for listeners who haven't heard that show, Tiffins offers a whole fish deep fried as an entree. And when Jim and I ordered it, the fish still had an expression on its face when it came out. And that expression was one of surprise, like the deep fryer caught it by surprise. It was 1 minute it was swimming along, and the next minute it was in oil. That was the look, if you will, on the fish's face. But anyway, Jim, go ahead.
Still haunts my dreams. Where would you put Tiffins from a quality per cost ratio? I mean, I actually thought for the price paid, it was good food. I mean, it's a wonderful design. Great space, but at the same time, it's positioned right outside of Avatar where people are moving at flank speed to get in there.
Right.
I wonder if it just isn't doing the business that Disney expected.
Well, here's what I think. When it first opened, it was fantastic. It was essentially a deluxe restaurant, the kind of restaurant you would find at a Disney Deluxe hotel inside a theme park. Okay. It was fabulous food. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem was no one wanted to pay those prices for that kind of food inside a theme park. It simply didn't fit in with the hurry up mentality that you see a lot of people taking in a Disney theme park. And for the longest time after it opened, even though we were saying it was fabulous food, no one was going there. You could walk in and get a reservation, which is indicative of a restaurant that isn't very popular. So what Disney started to do is to try and find a lower price point. But in order to do that, they had to cheapen the food. So the last time I was there, I had ramen soup, which when I'm in New York, good ramen soup is like $16, $17 a bowl, $18 a bowl for very, very good ramen made by Japanese people, surrounded by Japanese people with great ingredients, super tasty, huge bowl. $18 a bowl for the most expensive ramen you can get. Disney's is $36, or literally double the price.
Please tell me you could not, in fact, count the number of noodles, right?
I don't know that I can eat $36 worth of noodles outside of Disney World. Inside of Disney, it was unspectacular. The broth was not great. The meat was not spectacular. I mean, it was not an elevated bowl of ramen that you would expect for that kind of price point. You would expect something vastly different or creative about it. It was fine for what it was. It doesn't compare with the quality of my local Japanese places, obviously. And it's twice the cost. I'd never order it again. But I think that's the thing you see with a lot of the new menu items at Tiffins. I recently tried the chicken and waffles, which was fine for what it was in terms of taste. Super interesting. The waffle was like a cornbread waffle, which you don't see very often in restaurants. But the chicken was, imagine like are you familiar with squab or like Cornish hen? Imagine half of a Cornish hen and a waffle.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're talking about essentially the size of a TV dinner piece of chicken with a waffle. And again, for like, somewhere between $35 and $40, if I recall correctly. There's no way that you can have that little bit of food equal that price with that quality at Tiffins. And I think that's what you're seeing here.
Oh dear.
The other questions on the survey that Chrissy sent were: how did you make advanced dining reservations? How long did it take you to be greeted at the podium? How long, basically wait questions. How long was the wait to be seated? How long was the wait to order? How long was the wait to get food? And then basic, cleanliness, atmosphere, and stuff about where you're staying and tickets and things like that. But here's what I think is prompting this. When Tiffins first opened up, its restaurant rating from touringplans.com users and the unofficial guide readers was somewhere between 91 and 92%, which is very good. Again, average for most Disney restaurants is around 89 or 90%. So that's above average. Over the past year, though, it's dropped to 90%. And if you look at the past 6 months, 88%, past 3 months, 87.7%. So clearly something's happening there. It's down almost 4 points over the past 2 years. And 4 points is huge on our restaurant surveys. To give you some example of that, the standard deviation is 0.02 on our survey. So to drop 4 points, especially to go below average like that, is a fairly significant development. And I think that's what we're seeing here, the slow erosion of value for money at Tiffins. I think that's what's prompting this survey.
That's such a shame. That coupled with Nomad's right next door.
Yeah.
I mean, that wonderful bar.
Well, that's the thing. So how do you fix it? I mean, they could lower prices, but as we know from the new Snow White addition to character dining at the Wilderness Lodge, which replaced Artist Point, Disney is mostly interested in revenue per plate served in their restaurants, right? Things like quality and value for money take a backseat to how much money they can make per person per night at the restaurants. So what do you do with Tiffins? You can't charge less. Yeah. But expensive food they tried the expensive good food thing once. It didn't work for them.
I wonder.
It's going to be a character meal. You know it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, there is another way to go here, but I honestly I can't see, given the amount of money that was spent on building Tiffins and the decision to position it where they positioned it right outside of Avatar, which has become this huge driver for attendance at Animal Kingdom, but out of the 3 parks now that do have Club 33s, Animal Kingdom does not. Would it be a possibility that maybe this facility could be retooled, repositioned?
I would be surprised at that, but I don't think Disney would take a dining location out of circulation like that. I think, like we talked about earlier with the survey results from Be Our Guest, the most likely scenario for Disney to make a quick fix here is to add characters to it, right? Like I'd be very surprised if a year from now we don't see characters at Be Our Guest to help boost those ratings for a couple of reasons. One is it's a cheap and immediate fix, right? Doesn't cost Disney any money. They don't have to improve the food. They don't have to improve the kitchen staff. All they have to do is throw some characters in, and that's probably good for a couple point boost.
But the size of the dining room at Tiffins and the physical setup, what characters could you put in there and still turn tables?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, the couple of the rooms are fairly big, but you're right. Not in the a couple of rooms that are relatively small too. What are the thinner nature-based Disney characters that we have?
Well,
Disney Nature is going to come out with a new series, and it's going to be exceptionally thin characters that are fit. It'd be like Sporty Spice.
Are mostly giraffe-based restaurants. All right. So.
Meerkats are all the rage. Look how small they are. They're tiny. I want to mention one more quick thing about restaurants, though, before we go. When we talked about the Be Our Guest restaurants, I mentioned that I posted the dining survey data on the Touring Plans website for people to download and play with by themselves. And one of our listeners, Becky, took that data. We posted it online and did more analysis. And one of the remarkable things that Becky found was this. Satisfaction dropped more for people who are not on the Disney dining plan That is, if you were looking at the price of the food, yeah, you were definitely concerned. But if you already paid for the food ahead of time and you were using the Disney dining plan, you were absolutely satisfied with the quality. In fact, there was a huge difference in satisfaction between people who actually looked at the menu prices and those that didn't. And it's all based on the dining plan participation. That was interesting to me, that there's that much of a gap in quality ratings based on whether you're on the dining plan.
When you're on the dining plan, your take on a Disney vacation really does change. You're so obsessed about getting the number of points you're allotted per day taken care of that screw the quality. I want to make sure I used all my points.
Well, the one thing we have heard from virtually everyone, the number one thing they like about the dining plan is you can pay for it 6 months before you arrive on site. And once you're on site, you don't have to look at the cost of anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And as long as you can get the reservations, you don't have to worry about the price of anything that you eat. And that peace of mind is by far the number one selling point of the entire Disney dining plan. And I think what you're seeing here is on the back end of that, that if you're not looking at the fact that you pay, I think I paid almost $75 per person with tax and gratuity for a meal that was basically average. If you're not looking at that, right? If you're just looking at the overall experience and not considering the price, yeah, I mean, the restaurant does about 7 or 8 points better on service, which is an astounding amount when you're thinking about that, because plus or minus 7% on a dining survey just based on the cost is remarkable.
Thank you, Becky, for digging in there.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And unearthing those numbers. That's a fascinating insight, and it certainly will be interesting to see what happens further on down the pike here with Be Our Guest.
Oh, I've got this idea to go back and look at it for every restaurant that way. In fact, to do a whole analysis of how much the Disney dining plan, the different Disney dining plans affect your satisfaction. Because it's an interesting point, right?
Oh, you are not going to make friends in the Team Disney Orlando building.
I wonder if they've seen it too. Like when I was going through this, I'm like, well, surely they've got to know that, right? Yeah.
If not, somebody's going to have a bad meeting. Early January, Len, so okay.
What are the odds of anyone from Disney actually listening to this show, Jim? What are the odds?
Oh, that'll never happen. Okay.
All right, Jim, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk about our main topic, which is my trip to Aulani and your history of it. All right, we'll be right back, folks.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Psst, healthcare pros, word's out, and it's too good to keep quiet. Look, LinkedIn is revolutionizing job hunting, making it possible to search by specialty, shift preference, and salary. Endless scrolling is out. Whether it's a mental health therapist or dental hygienist, finding the perfect role is faster and easier than ever. Head to linkedin.com/healthcare and start your search today.
And we're back. Cue the Hawaiian music. Jim, I just got back from a few days at Aulani, Disney's finest resort. So every year I try and do a week before Christmas trip with my daughter when she finishes school. This year we went to Hawaii. It was spectacular. I got to say, it was an 11-hour flight from the East Coast to Hawaii, to Honolulu, direct. I don't know that I ever want to go on an 11-hour direct flight anywhere again, because my butt was numb about 4 hours into that flight.
Now, isn't it also a bit of a schlep from the airport to Aulani itself?
It's like half an hour. It's basically from the Orlando airport to Disney World. It's not a big deal at all. No, I didn't. That part was absolutely fine. It was having to sit for 11 hours in a plane that was the hard part. But once you got through that, it was all worth it. So we arrived at Aulani. My daughter had never been there before, Hannah, and she brought a friend of hers. And it was funny, when you arrive at Aulani, so you pull up at the entryway like you do virtually every Disney resort. But when you go in the entryway, the first thing that you see directly opposite from you is this literally postcard-shaped view looking out over the Pacific Ocean. So you've got a 2-story sort of Disney Hawaiian lobby theme. It's a spectacular view. It's open air. There's no windows between you and the ocean. But you see Disney's landscaping. You see their volcano-shaped water slide. You've got landscaping all around you, and in the far distance, you see the Pacific Ocean. My daughter saw this for the first time and immediately started crying. And she wasn't the only one we saw that week. For people who walked in and just stopped and stared, they either laughed or they cried when they saw it. It's that perfect of a view, and that is a great entrance experience coming into the resort. Have you been there, Jim?
No. In fact, that's the thing. I have been following Aulani since the announcement in 2007, and that was where Alice and her mom lived for years and years. And then As soon as they opened, they moved to California. So I've been trying to
Really?
invent an excuse to
I
get
thought Alice
back.
lived in Hawaii.
Yeah, Alice spent a lot of her childhood in Honolulu, and for me, it was, oh, geez, it's time to go visit my daughter. And again, trust me, I know of that 11-hour flight of which you speak.
Yeah.
But the cruel irony is, as soon as Disney opens up something that I really want to investigate, Alice moves back to California. So I've been, every so often I'll quiz her, did you leave something in the condo? Can I maybe go there and check the closets?
You'll go back and see some friends that you saw when you were growing up, something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So the resort is U-shaped, if you will, not unlike the Wilderness Lodge, but it's got 14-story towers on either side, so it's considerably taller than the Wilderness Lodge. And the interesting thing about this resort is it's a mix of regular hotel rooms and then DVC rooms. So if I recall correctly, the vast majority of the rooms, not the vast majority, but the majority of the rooms are DVC. I think there's around
I want to say 460 villas, 19 grand villas, and 16 suites, whereas on the hotel side, there's only 359 hotel rooms.
Right, standard hotel rooms, right. And the standard hotel rooms are about 356 square feet, which is somewhere between a Disney Moderate and a Disney Deluxe resort, if you're familiar with Walt Disney World stuff. The interesting thing for me, though, on the hotel rooms are the views. So obviously we're all familiar with like a standard view hotel room of Disney's description. We're basically looking at the parking lot or infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those hotels, though, again, because this is Hawaii and everything's more expensive in Hawaii, range from about $500 a night to about $800 a night in 2019. So immediately, those are deluxe resort prices, and they should be. I mean, Aulani is Disney's best resort. These are good rooms. They're a little bit small for the deluxe size, but $500 to $800 a night plus 14% tax. They've also got an island garden view, so you get to see some of the landscaping. Those will run you $540 to $860. There's a poolside gardens view. I won't go through all the prices. There's a partial ocean view because I think every resort in Hawaii, Jim, wants to make the most of their ocean views. So if you have even a glimpse of the Pacific, you've got a partial ocean view. These run up to almost $950 a night. If you want an ocean view hotel room, roughly $700 to about just under $1,100 a night plus tax. Sleeps 4 people. The thing that I was surprised about is, how like Disney will add a surcharge of $10, $15, or $20 to your room if you have a third or fourth adult in your hotel room in Walt Disney World. At Aulani, it's $100 per adult per night. So that ocean view room that you have, if you've got 4 adults in there, $1,264 a night.
Wow,
that's a lot of coconuts, Jim.
That it is.
Now we stayed on the DVC side, and we had a 2-bedroom poolside view of it. So they've also got, because it's DVC, they've got studios. They've got 1-bedroom villas, 2-bedroom villas, and then grand villas, the 3 bedrooms as well. And I think these are the nicer accommodations. I've stayed in studios, I've stayed in 1-bedrooms, I've stayed in 2 bedrooms at Aulani. The main advantage of the villa side is you get something of a kitchen, right? In the studio, you've got a little kitchenette with a kettle, a microwave, a small sink, and a small fridge. But starting at the 1-bedroom and going up, you've got a full-size kitchen. That sort of offsets some of the price of the room because you can go out to the grocery store, buy some groceries, and then come back and eat snacks and make a few meals here and there. When you're talking about the prices of things in Hawaii, food, of course, is very expensive, but being able to buy it all in a grocery store will definitely help you save some money there. You've been to Hawaii, though, Jim, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Are you familiar with Foodland, the Foodland chain of grocery stores?
Yeah, they had one of the truly spectacular produce sections.
Right? So we were in the produce section of Foodland the day we were buying it, and pineapples were like $1.50 or $1.60 each, right? Cheap. Because I think everywhere else, pineapples are a couple bucks, at least a couple bucks more. So we're picking up a couple of pineapples. Laura's like, "Oh, $1, $1.50 or $1.60 each. Let's buy a bunch." And we actually got stopped by one of the employees who said, "If you come back on Tuesday, they're 69 cents. I don't want you to overpay for pineapples here." I'm like, could you imagine a pineapple for 69 cents? I mean, granted, it's Hawaii and they grow there. I was like, "Oh man, $1.69 is crazy for pineapple. Just come back on Tuesday; they're $1 cheaper."
Wow.
But the thing I love about Foodland is the food bars that they've got throughout the store that are completely Hawaiian. So there's a kimchi bar where you can get pickled vegetables. It's not like a regular store where you've got salad bar and you've got a hot bar where you can go buy. This isn't the Whole Foods. You've got a kimchi bar There is a poke bar where you can get fresh tuna or octopus or whatever and sort of mix it with fresh vegetables and rice. And I think that every once in a while they have a mochi bar too, where you can get sort of the frozen soy-based desserts that are famous in Japan. That's what I love about Foodland.
Yeah. Well, again, if you're going to a place, you should. I mean, that's the thing. What I loved about it was like, I felt like, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. This is I'm getting the authentic experience.
Oh yeah. So the other thing that I liked about Aulani was they've got their own little beach cove, right? Their own little bay, if you will, with rocks that protect the bay from most of the ocean waves coming in. And this is fantastic for a couple of reasons. One is you're right on the beach when you're at Aulani. But two, you can send the kids out to play in the waves, and the waves are like a foot high, tops, at most. So yeah, everyone's safe. There's no undertow or anything like that. You don't have to worry like I do about massive sharks coming in and wanting to feed on you. You know about my phobia of sharks. But, I went out there, I paddleboarded. You can snorkel. The resort actually has its own snorkeling reef that's separate from the beach with tropical fish. It's also super cold, but it's a lot of fun. There's plenty of things to do in the resort. Jim, why don't you give us a little bit of a history, though? Number one, what made Disney decide that they wanted to build a resort in Hawaii? And then why did they put literally every good thing they've ever built at Aulani? Like, what made them go over the top on it?
First, Disney getting into the vacation club, the timeshare market. The first DVC, which now I guess is known as Old Key West, opened in December of 91. And that same period of time, Disney registered with the state of Hawaii that they wanted to get a DVC built over there. So, I mean, right from the get-go, this was always part of the master plan. And a large part of that keyed off of the truly significant, or at least at that time, a number of tourists that would come over from Japan and vacation at Hawaii.
Let's mention this, Dorothy. Probably half the guests that are at Aulani are Japanese tourists. Virtually all the signage, all the menus, all of it is in both English and Japanese. And from the amount of Duffy and Shelley May merchandise available at Aulani, you can tell that they are dedicating this to the Japanese market.
Oh, yeah, but it was always part of the plan. But if you'll remember, first they get Old Key West up out of the ground, and the whole notion was that you sort of whet people's appetite into buying into the Disney timeshare thing. Michael Eisner, when he came through the door in 1984, I think you had the notes that you pulled out of...
the Bus Press Archives. Yeah.
Yeah, that where, they had the big meeting in January of 1985. I mean, literally, a little less than 3 months after he's been on the job. And, they're looking at Disney World property and the notion of, well, where do we put the timeshares?
Yeah.
And ultimately it was thought, okay, so we'll use the ones on property to whet their appetite, but the real money will be in the ones that we build around the country. So they buy the property in March of 1993 for Vero Beach, because, of course, it's Florida. Let's build one out on the beach. And then September of that year, they're meeting with folks in South Carolina for a resort in Hilton Head, and that's supposed to be for the golfers.
Right.
And
didn't they also talk about New York?
Yeah, that in fact, what's kind of interesting about the one in New York is that you as the native New Yorker now, this one was going to be called Disney's Times Square Villas. It was going to be built at the corner of 42nd Street and 8th, and it was actually Tishman Realty was going to be Disney's partner on this thing. Again, I don't know if you've actually seen the concept art for it. The gimmick is that sort of a meteor has come crashing down at the corner of 42nd and 8th, but I don't know about the design, because the same people who did the All-Star and Pop Century were supposed to design this hotel for Disney that period, but the whole notion was 100, timeshare units and offering theater packages for, of course, all the Disney shows in New York. But at the same time, out in Vail, there was going to be the Disney's Mountain Lodge. But what they found was, as soon as they opened Vero Beach, and they just weren't selling the number of units. But on the other hand, the stuff on property, the boardwalk, those things were going clean. Michael Eisner still, it's like, I gave up property at the corner of 42nd and 8th.
They're not making that property anymore, Jim.
No, they're not. They're not. And Disney, at one point, they had $70 million in the ground and 35 acres at Newport Coast. That's this choice piece of oceanfront property in Southern California between Newport Beach and Laguna. And that was supposed to be the standalone for the Disneyland Resort and for tourists visiting Southern California. Because of what happened with Vero and what happened with Hilton Head, Disney lost its nerve. And from there, you saw them really doubling down on property. I mean, what is it? We had Boardwalk open in July of 96. We saw the Boulder Ridge thing open in November of 2000. Do you remember when they announced the Eagle Pines DVC and how
was that the Fort Wilderness? How the Fort Wilderness one was announced?
I don't believe that was the timeline on that one.
What was Eagle Pines then? I don't remember it.
Oh, Eagle Pines was that they were going to take 9 holes out of the Eagle Pines golf course.
Oh, I do remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole thing it was going to be a classic Florida resort. It was like the Misner's Brothers hotels of Boca Raton and Palm Beach. But again, they announced this in July of 2001.
Yeah.
40 days later is 9/11. Suddenly nobody is going to Disney World, and you already had the Disney Institute that was bleeding at this point because no one was going to Disney Vacation. They certainly weren't going to go take adult education courses.
Yeah, it just didn't look right in a recession, right?
Yeah, so they scratched Eagle Pines entirely.
And it never came back.
Well, the interesting thing is that's where the Four Seasons got built, and a good chunk of that land also got ceded over to Golden Oaks.
Ah, okay. So they did build on it, but they just didn't build DVC. They weren't even more profitable.
Yeah, but, again, it takes about 10 years of ridiculous success on Disney property for Disney to finally, it's like, okay, let's revisit these offsites. And, again, we've done our homework. We've registered with the state of Hawaii. And again, those numbers for Japanese tourism had stayed solid. So it's like, all right, let's start looking for property. And sure enough, October of 2007, they find 21 acres that they purchased in the Aulani Resort in Honolulu. We'll start in 2008. It's an $800 million project. And again, just what you described, how they work backwards from the notion of, this is the view we want. We want people arrive, and let's build backwards from that. And again, this is a Joe Rohde.
You can tell his fingerprints are all over it. But the interesting thing to me is this. So the Aulani sits between two other resorts. If you're looking out at the ocean, the immediate right is a Four Seasons. And then on the left is a Marriott property. But it's a Marriott property sort of farther along. And I think the Four Seasons was actually a Marriott before it was a Four Seasons. The Four Seasons does not make bad hotels, right? Four Seasons resorts are good. They are world renowned for their style and their luxury. The Four Seasons is nowhere near as pretty as Aulani. It's not even in the same ballpark. And that's where I think the Disney Imagineers and their ability to frame views really show the difference between what they do and what sort of standard hotel designers do. You walk over to the Four Seasons and it's lovely, right? And the service is excellent. And parts of it are very, very nice. It's sort of sleek and modern and all white and blue. But if you look at the views that you get at various places around the resort, nothing compares at the Four Seasons with what they've got at Aulani. And the same thing over at the Marriott, but it's even more different. Like the Marriott looks like a Marriott hotel, granted with an open air lobby and whatnot, but no hotel chain in that immediate area does anything like Disney does with the views at Aulani. The landscaping is better. The theming is not even close anywhere else. It really have done a fantastic job throughout that entire resort to give it sort of the Disney look and feel.
When Disney decided that they weren't going to do something with the Newport Beach property, who did they turn around and sell the property to but Marriott?
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and in fact, I remember talking with the Imagineer about they had this lovely Venetian-inspired resort with canals, and it broke his heart because, again, they don't make a lot of available beachfront property in California.
Yeah.
And to lose this primo opportunity because, well, we got cold feet. And again, you got your somewhat standard Marriott. It's studio, bedrooms, suites, and the clubhouse, and get out.
I'm sure it's all fine, but like I said, the theming is second to none. The other thing that I really like about the resort is they've got all kinds of activities for kids and all kinds of activities for adults. So I mentioned the snorkeling reef that you can hop into. It's chilled salt water, but there are colorful fish throughout it. You can snork as much as you want. in that there's also an interactive game that you play. It's almost like the H&P's World Showcase Adventure at Epcot. So you're handed a small iPad-like tablet. You walk around the resort and you discover things. And as you do, as you go through this adventure, things turn on and off in the resort. So fire shoots out of the volcano, or you see turtles crossing a stream or something like that. It's really fantastic, and the game is fairly extensive. So it's a small resort, relatively speaking. It's not the size of Epcot or anything like that. But to play that entire interactive game probably takes most kids anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. And there's an inside version on the 3 days a year that it rains in Hawaii. There's an indoor version that they can play in the lobby that's about 15 minutes to half an hour to play as well.
Wow. They're seeking out the menehune, right? The
menehune, exactly. Very good, Jim. Yes, yeah. The garden spirits that live in Aulani. The idea is that you have to invoke the menehune to help people who are in need around the resort. So super fun. Also, we need to talk about the restaurants, Jim. All of the food tastes better in Hawaii because you're in Hawaii and it's locally grown, but every single restaurant here is very good. My favorite is the signature table service restaurant is Ama Ama, which serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is on the edge of the property, directly overlooking the ocean. The most difficult tables to get are those at sunset, obviously, because it faces west, and so does the Disney Resort, and you can watch the sunset through it. Everything we ate there was absolutely fantastic. The steaks, the seafood, the side dishes. There were very few things that I wouldn't order again. That was good. Also good, they have a character meal because, it's Disney. So they've got a restaurant called, what was it, Makahiki? So in the morning, you meet Mickey Mouse. There's Minnie, Pluto, and Donald are available. It's a standard breakfast buffet with all the bacon, eggs, sausage stuff you would expect. But because it has a large Japanese tourist contingent, you can also get a standard Japanese breakfast. So broiled fish, miso soup, rice, and so on. It's a really interesting combination of things. Have you ever had Japanese breakfast before, Jim?
Yeah. Well, again, my daughter, the foodie, drags her extremely reluctant father out into the world. And yes, it's an adventure, isn't it?
The broiled fish is fairly standard. It's a lot of protein in the morning, which I guess is good because protein makes you feel less hungry longer. So there might be something to that. I ate so much of the standard buffet for breakfast, I don't think I ate lunch, which is both terrifying and funny at the same time. Like, it was a lot of food. But then also, this is sort of like my sleeper hit. It's Mama's Snack Shack, which serves fish and chips. Yes. Oh my God, the best fish and chips. First of all, it's enough fish and chips for 2 people, but it's super fresh. They also do chicken fingers for kids, and I think they do a fried shrimp as well, sandwiches. But amazing food. You can grab that, sit out on the patio, smell the ocean breeze. I think it's like near constant 80 degrees every time you're in Hawaii. But you've got a fantastic view. The food's really good. Grab a drink by the pool bar, sit and eat your fish and chips. It's a fantastic experience. So, Jim, Aulani is clearly a hit, right? It was at 80% occupancy when we checked in, and you could tell that as we were getting closer to Christmas, the occupancy rate jumped up. Is Disney thinking about expanding this? Are they going to do more on the West Coast, or is this it?
The thing about Aulani is that this resort started under a cloud. I mean, do you remember, literally, I think it was 2 weeks prior to the opening, August 29th, 2011, on the 12th, Disney actually suspended timeshare sales at Aulani and fired 3 executives, the DVC executives, including the then president, Jim Lewis, because they'd figured out that they'd screwed up the formula. Very, very late in the game, Disney was going over the books, and it's like, wait a minute, we're not going to be able to turn a profit.
So let's give some background to our listeners. When you buy into the Disney's Vacation Club, you buy the points for somewhere, I think it's north of $100 a point. And the points are the things that you use, like cash, to pay for the room. But in addition to paying for the points, which you pay for once, there's an annual maintenance fee that you pay just for sort of resort upkeep. And apparently, shortly after Disney had been selling these rooms, they found out that the maintenance fee that they had proposed in the contract to charge was drastically low.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, to give you some idea of the blowback from this, I mean, in 2011, about 6 or 8 months before Aulani opened, Disney purchased land in National Harbor, Maryland. It's just outside of Washington, D.C., with the idea that we're so confident in Aulani, and what this potentially is going to be, let's get back into these standalone resorts. And so let's do one outside of Washington, D.C. And they were so shaken by what had happened here that November of 2011, they pulled the plug on, they had a 500-room resort hotel designed to go into National Harbor. And Disney's like, oh, God. So they actually stepped away. And
wow.
The interesting thing is now we are 7-8 years now in
7 years and change, yeah.
Yeah, and if you go over the history of Aulani, there have been tweaks and changes. I mean, especially, for example, to the pool area. The interesting thing is that they opened and they realized that people wanted sort of an infinity pool view kind of a thing.
Oh,
and so
yeah. It's a great infinity view. So the infinity view pool wasn't original to Aulani?
It's more a case of I came all this way for the view and I don't have the view I expected. So it's like, okay, we can tweak that. We can do that.
Wow.
This was one of the things that poor Joe Rohde came up against. This project, Disney buys the land in October of 2007. Fall of 2008, we had the huge financial correction. And that affected world tourism. That affected not just, us in the States. That was a worldwide financial crisis. And as strong as the Japanese tourism has been, Japan's been dealing with its own financial issues for quite some time.
Oh, yeah, 30 years, or at least 20, right? It's been in sort of either a slow recession or a tepid recovery for the better part of 2 decades.
That's it exactly. So I think at this point, Disney is confident enough in Aulani that they do want to look into expanding. And in fact, my understanding is that as you tour the resort, there are definitely expansion paths there that you can sort of get the sense of, okay, so that's where the next tower would go or that sort of thing. But again, they've kept a foot on the brakes for, 7 or 8 years now. And now finally, there's been some discussion about, okay, maybe we could look at expanding. But remember, Disney doesn't operate in a vacuum. And remember what happened in 92 when Euro Disneyland opened and there was a financial drag on the company. There's a lot of folks at Disney right now who are just sort of like, okay, let's get Galaxy's Edge open. And when it's the monstrous success that it's supposed to be, then, we can spread the joy around and maybe slide a little money to Aulani and do some expanding there. But 80% occupancy, is that what you said?
It was 80% the week before Christmas, and I believe it was going up the closer we got, because there was definitely an uptick in activity around the lobby, especially like the Saturday before Christmas. I think maybe the way that Christmas fell this year, where you could have gone like either the week before or the week of Christmas and still had plenty of time left off after that for the week after that. I think that probably affected some people's plans. So yeah, as we were leaving on the 23rd, we definitely saw an uptick in the number of people checking in.
Again, I don't mean to embarrass Mr. Lewis, the president of the DVC, the guy who eventually took the fall for the bad numbers and getting the maintenance fees wrong. Because it's like, as Len will tell you, over the history of Disney, there have been a number of times where somebody got the numbers wrong and filed a long report. In fact, did you come across when you were at Buzz's archive for the report where they were absolutely certain the place that we should build Walt Disney World was Ocala?
Yes. Yeah.
And again, this is back in the slide rule days where Buzz is checking his message like, oh, wait a minute. No,
hold on.
Orlando.
Yeah, I meant Orlando.
I got my O's wrong. So, yeah, I mean, it's just this sort of stuff happens. But they overcame it, and it's a killer resort. And like
Disney's
I said,
best resort by a wide margin. I would go back if it wasn't for like I said, the 11-hour plane ride. Absolutely fantastic resort. The people who built it, the people who run it should be extremely proud of what they've done, what they've accomplished.
Well, and like I said, if I can just convince Alice to remember that she left something in a closet in the condo in Honolulu, I'm there.
There's always school at the University of Hawaii.
There we go.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our show today. We're produced fabulously by the ebullient Aaron Adams. Don't forget to go onto iTunes, and along with rating Don Ho's Tiny Bubbles, rate our show too, and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.